Welcome to Finding Yourself with Christopher Dare, proudly sponsored by Lighthouse Coffee in Sparks, Nevada. Now let's join Christopher for today's message.
Hello, Christopher Dare. I am here on Finding Yourself. This is a podcast / video that we are putting together just to help people with leadership, with life skills. We're talking about a lot of different things. If you look at our first plug that we really went after is conflict resolution. It's something that everybody faces, and so I encourage you to go back and listen to that one. I have a big heart for that. And as you really look at that piece of conflict resolution, it doesn't mean anything except you find a way through. And I think no matter what relationship you're in, if both people or groups are committed to it, you can always find a way through. With that said, we are now talking about types of communication. Everybody needs to understand how to communicate. We just spent a couple of our series together talking about verbal communication, talked about you learning how to communicate with confidence. We're going to talk a little bit about nonverbal skills. Now, you'd be shocked to understand that you actually get most of these, because when you walk in a room, a lot of people are always kind of picking up on verbal skills. But you want to be careful what you're putting off. So I want to talk about that for a second. We talked a little bit in one of our times together of not looking people in the eye. Like if I walk in and I'm looking down all the time, what do you think this says to you when I won't look you in the eye? Now, I know there's some people who have social skill issues and there's things they're working on, but I'm seeing more people not look people in the eye than I've ever have before. It's something that's growing, and I think it's because they're spending so much time on social media, technology, that they're not having to be around people as much like that. You want to be a leader in this community? Learn how to look people in the eye. Lift your head up. Walk in confidence. And there's ways to do that. Then it's not just going to happen because someone tells you to, but think of your verbal and nonverbal cues. If I walk in a room and I come in the room and I walk in like this, what does that mean to you? Well, it does say something. It doesn't mean that I'm angry. Might be, but it does sometimes say that I'm closed off. If I walk in and I just kind of make a bee to the back of the room and or there's things and you'll see in my face that kind of just show that I don't want to be there. And you want to be careful that you don't do those things. And I know some cultures really go down and they look at every detail. And I'm not even talking about those kind of things, though some of those things do matter. But when you walk in a room, you want to be expressive. Now, I personally believe, now this is me, my wife would argue, but I believe as a leader, we should be there early. I like setting the tone of the room. Now, why do we do that? Well, if somebody already walked in and had a bad conversation before I got there, then I have to kind of reset the room. Now, this sounds interesting, so think about this. Let's say I'm getting ready to have a meeting. It's with 10 different people. I get there late. That means somebody else already started the meeting. Now, you might say, no, they didn't. They just talked. Exactly. They started the meeting. And so with that said, I have to walk in a room and start reading all the social cues, trying to figure out what happened before I got there. I like to get there early, set up the room, and by doing that, I do that by looking people in the eye, shaking their hand, welcoming them. Now, it doesn't mean that I agree with these people. Maybe we're even having some arguments. Maybe we're having some conflict where we have to work on things. But by me setting up the room and me giving off social cues that I'm confident and that I appreciate them being there and that I value them, it changes the whole conversation. Matter of fact, I had a situation happen just the other day. It was pretty interesting. I got there late, and it really did change everything. And I was so frustrated because I walked in the room and I could tell there was already some pre-conversation happening. There's a couple people here that was in that room that had to do, they agreed with me. And then there's a couple people over here that we had to work on stuff. And before I got there, there was some discourse that happened. And I got there and people were already mad. And I'm like, oh man. Now we got through it, but we had to take time, but I had to go in the room and read these social cues. You could tell one group was already mad at the other. One had their arms crossed. One was kind of looking away like this, and you kind of start looking at these things. So there are nonverbal cues that you want to watch for. I mean, if you don't think you have them, have you ever been at a party when you're friend or your spouse wants to leave, I promise you there's non-social cues that are going on. My wife will be like squeezing my hand or looking away or whatever. You can kind of catch that. Now, some of the nonverbal cues also around the table, if you're talking too much, there are nonverbal cues that you can see where somebody kind of feels like they're being left out. Or if somebody wants to speak and instead you try to get that last bit in. You know, you're sitting here and you're talking, but somebody has something to add to the conversation. You can check that out. You can see it if you just slow down. If you're talking all the time, I can tell you right now, you're probably not paying attention to social cues that much. And so let me be the friend that tells you, don't talk all the time. If you're never talking, that's also a social cue. That makes people question, you know, do you have nothing to offer? What are you hiding from? What are you scared to say? And so with that said, you want to find little things. And maybe you don't talk as much as somebody else. It's okay. Maybe you talk more than others. That's still okay. But you don't want to hog the conversation or disappear out of the conversation. You want to make sure that your voice is there and that you're sharing. Some of the other non-social cues that can happen is, oh, hi. What did I just do? I just told you I'm out of time. Or, this is a big one right now. People pick up their phone and they'll, what? We're in the middle of talking. Why would you do that? This is part of why I don't like Apple Watches. All of a sudden someone zings in and tells you and I go, oh. You know, and this is something I challenge you anyway. If you are there talking to somebody, don't pick up your phone. Be there for them. Now, if you know an important call's coming in, you know, you can tell them ahead of time, I want you to know I have an important call coming in. I have to take that. Now, I say this, I don't even think that's a great idea, but if that's the case, you should warn them ahead of time. Because if not, you may not realize it, but you will belittle them if every time your phone rings, you look at it. Or if you're doing this all the time. I know everyone thinks they're really busy. And you probably might think you're the busiest person in the world, but I'm going to guarantee you you're not. We all have 24 hours in a day. You're not busier than I am. You just choose to put other things in your life. You just choose other priorities. You just choose how you're going to be, and I choose who I'm going to be. We all are the same amount of busy. So if we set that aside, how can I value you and make sure that I'm not giving off nonverbal cues that I don't want? Especially for me. If you know me, I value people. I value you. I value the people I'm sitting with. I want them to feel valued if they're around me. And so for me, that's a key element to knowing Christopher. But if I'm constantly looking at my watch, my phone, away, if I'm paying attention to that conversation instead of our conversation, these are all things that do not give off what I really want them to know. It actually says I devalue you. Another interesting one that I've seen is, you know, you sit and have a conversation, but somebody walks in the room that seems more important than the people here. Now, I've made this mistake before where I kind of just glance over and it's in a way that they know I don't want to talk to them anymore. I want to go talk to the congressman. I want to go talk to whoever. And the problem with that, and it makes sense, people understand it, but think of how much better it would be if someone walked in and they know they walked in. Most people know when someone of that caliber walks in, but I just give these people that I'm talking to right now the ultimate conversation. I focus on them. It actually says how important they are. It's the greatest point of value. Now you might say, you know, I need to excuse myself. I do have a conversation I need to have with whoever, but thank you for your time. All you have to do is stay there for 10 extra seconds. Give them that time. Give them that moment. But nonverbal cues are huge, and if you don't know they are, then I would encourage you to find a way to slow down and look at them. Stop for a moment and think about what you're looking at in a room. What do you see? And I think it will change your conversations in a way that you will learn a lot about yourself and others. So I'm Christopher Dare, Finding Your South. I hope this helps you a little bit. These are just some ideas for you to think about when you walk in a room, when you're in a room, how to value the people around you. God bless you. Lighthouse Coffee, my favorite coffee.